Okay, today we're going to make a tabletop garland. The first thing we're going to do is actually light it. So I've got a string of the garland lights that are 3 meters long, and I've got a 1.2 meter length of garland, which is perfect for my tabletop. So all you're doing here is you're just winding it backwards and forwards through the foliage, giving it a little bit of coverage outside of your garland as well as on the inside. That's the advantage of sort of that backwards and forwards. You probably want to work also the lights a little bit more to the front of your garland. So working which side you're going to work at the have as the front, because the back for us it's going to be on a table against a wall, so it's not going to be visible. Whereas this side that I'm working to is the side that will be shown out the front. I'm using my kitchen bench as a workspace because standing up doing this, if I'm working on a dining table, even though that length is great, I find it's just really difficult on your back. You're bending down quite a fair way. So I've generally laid my lights. I'm happy with my overall positioning here. So just to make sure that they're tight, because I do need to move this, I'm making it on the bench. It's going to be sitting somewhere else and eventually it's going to go into the store. So I need to just wind some foliage around in little different positions to stop the lights coming out. You can also see I'm obviously working with the lights on, which means I can see at a glance that I've got an even coverage. First of all, I know the lights are working, so I haven't wasted my time doing a job and then finding that it needs to be fixed. Now today we're going to work with the sky. Okay, so he's going to sort of lay back in the middle there, and then we're going to work with foliage. I want quite a bit of foliage on this. I want it to be quite an opulent garland. It's going to be on the first thing you see as you walk in the door of my home. With our snowman being the centre of our garland, we've obviously got a bit of a frosty theme going, so I thought this particular ball garland was a great one to add. So I'm going to just use some pipe cleaners to position this, just make sure I've got it even front either end. And we just want to tie the garland into the pipe with the pipe cleaner to attach it to the main base. I'm going to do that in just a couple of points, say 4 points along here. So you can see now all I'm doing is just making sure I've sprayed the garland out wider as well as in, so that we've got coverage throughout. We've already got a nice base happening here. We've got our lights, our white snowball garland. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we want to just get some sprayed up foliage to sit on either side of our snowman head. The snowman's going to sit like that, and then we'll have some foliage coming around on either side and work it through our garland as well. Snowman will eventually just sit in place, he won't be tied on, so we'll have sort of enough foliage around it that there'll be a little sort of a space for him to sit through. These foliage starts quite flat, so just work it to give it a bit of shape. It's all wired. And then you bend the stem as well, so that you're going to put it into place and it's going to sit up. So working with our central point, giving a bit of room for the snowman head. I'm going to position that. When you're tying things on, try and tie them quite tightly because it'll help keep them exactly where you want them positioned. Another thing you can use if you prefer, rather than the pipe cleaners, is you can also use cable ties. Cable ties are a nice way of getting a really tight fit for all of your foliage. Now, I'm actually working to the front of the garland here, and I just feel like we need a little bit of foliage to sort of spray underneath. So I'm going to use these bigger pieces. I use these regularly in the displays and just cut all the individual branches off. And then I can glue them onto the underside of the foliage, as well as spraying some through the foliage just to give a little touch of colour. I'm going to use some silver as well. So I'm just using the hot glue gun. Be careful, obviously, when you use a hot glue gun. If you haven't used it before, they are, as I say, very, very hot. So when you're sticking the foliage on, watch your fingers. As the glue cools down a bit, then you can put a bit more pressure on to make sure that it's nicely attached. So I'm just running some glue across the main leaves that will be glued. Because I'm using my kitchen bench too, I do like to use a piece of cardboard that I put underneath so that I don't end up with the glue all over the bench. Okay, so we've glued our foliage around the garland. We've got our main piece here. Now we need to have a little bit of foliage coming out the back. So this is our swirly big pick. And I want that to sit sprayed out. So you're now looking at the back. Exactly the same as we've been working all of our other pieces in, using the pipe cleaners to connect them. It's going to be quite tight around the back, spraying out of our snowman. Okay, so I've just turned around the camera so that it's now looking at the front of the garland. Just spray it out here. And we can take off our centre markers. And the final things I'd like to actually do when it's sitting in place hang up a couple of these beautiful drops. So when he's on the table, they will actually come out across the front. So I'm not going to tie them in. You'll see when I give the final picture that these have just been put into place around the garland to sit across the front of it. And finally, it's just a few spots where it just needs a little bit of final foliage. Down the end here it's looking a bit dull, so I'm going to get some foam balls. So just to round this out, I'm going to take a couple of these picks and just twist the actual foam off. So one for either end. Again, using our glue gun. Just glue a couple of these onto our foliage.